Hi guys, my name is Noor and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to talk about all the books I've read in the month of May. I've read 6 books in total and I'm still reading one more book, but I don't know if I will finish it before the end of the month. So the first book I've read this month is Hitler's Canary by Sandy Toksvig. This is a book that talks about the events that took place in the Second World War in Denmark. It follows a boy and his family and how they act throughout all those years. This book tells you a beautiful story about a boy and his family, but it also gives you a lot of information about the Second World War in Denmark, and I really enjoyed reading about it. It really gave me new information, but it also gave me a really beautiful story about friendship, about family, so I really enjoyed reading it. It is a middle grade book and it's around 200-250 pages and it's a really quick read. I read it in like one sitting. I gave this story 3.5 stars. The second book I've read this month is Thornhill by Pam Smyth. This is a graphic novel and it's in the genre of horror, but while reading this book I didn't even got the chills. It's a cool story. It was like my first graphic novel I've ever read, so for me it was like a whole new world that was opening up to me. But I wasn't really impressed by this book and also by the illustrations. I wasn't a big fan of it. In general, there are like the illustrations, and then you have parts that are pages out of a diary, and I really like reading those pages out of the diary. That read really quickly. It was really fun to read, but I wasn't really impressed by the book itself. It was just a quick read. It was quite fun to read, but it wasn't horror, or it wasn't really a touching story at all. And the ending was a bit, I was a bit by the end, if I can say so. And I gave this book 3 stars. The third book I've read this month is When We Believed in Mermaids by Barbara O'Neill. This book follows a woman that lost her sister 15 years ago in a terrorist attack, but while she is watching the news she sees her sister on the screen. So she is very confused and starts searching for her sister in New Zealand. This story was really beautiful. It had a real big impact on me emotionally, just because I don't know, I can't really explain why I really loved this book. It was really well written. I love the story, but I got very emotional by the end. I think because I just lived through everything. I was like really living through her story, through her childhood, and I really enjoyed this book. I also gave it 5 stars because it really deserves it. I didn't really heard a lot about this book before I've read it, but I hope a lot of more people will read this book because, yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed reading it. It was really beautiful written and it had a big impact on me emotionally. But yeah, I really liked it. So the fourth book I've read this month is The Vanishing Star by Maureen Johnson. This is the second book in a trilogy of Truly Devious. Truly Devious is a story about Stevie, a girl that goes to a boarding school and wants to solve a crime that took place many years ago. This book is a young adult book and it's a quite popular book. And yeah, I really see why it's popular. I really enjoy reading it, and I'm currently reading the third book and I really want to know what's going to happen. It's a really fun and cool series to read, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. The fifth book I've read this month is Salto to Sea by Ruta Sepetys. This book is based on events that took place in the Second World War, and it follows 4 people that are running away from their own country, or they are working for one of the countries, and some of them have secrets, some of them are you just learn how they try to survive during these hard times. And it's a really emotional but beautiful book. I gave it 5 stars and it's definitely a new favorite book of mine. I cried because it was so beautiful, this book. It also, like, it gave me new information about stuff that happened during the Second World War that I've not even knew of. So I think this is a really important book to read. I don't want to give too much away because I think a lot of people like to read and go in blind sometimes in books, but this is like a must read, I think, if you're really interested in the Second World War, and also if you're not really interested in it. It is important that you read books like this that make you realize that not only the things you learn in school happens, but also stuff like that happens. And yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's a really, really beautiful book. And yeah, it's my new favorite book. And oh my god, there is one person in this book that I hate, and I think everyone who read this book already know about who I am talking about. But man, that person really, it makes you so angry while reading his part of the book. But it's also really interesting to read his part of the book, because you're like, oh, what? Like, yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, so it's probably gonna be a bit weird if you hear me talking about it this way. But when you read the book, you will understand what I mean about that person. So yeah, I really think you should read this book. The last book I've read this month is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is the first book in a trilogy, and it follows a human girl that was taken away to the fairyland and tries to live there and tries to be a part of that world, even though she is human, and it's really hard to, yeah, live in a world full of fairies and other mystical creatures. I really like this book. I know this is a super hyped young adult book in the booktube community, and I always was like, yeah, but it's fantasy, and I don't really know if I'm really into fantasy that much. But after reading this book, I'm like, yeah, I'm all in for fantasy right now. I really like the genre, and I really want to read more fantasy, and I definitely want to read more of this series. I really understand why it's such a popular book, and if you're really into fantasy, or if you really like, I'm a bit intrigued to read this book, I would say just read it, because I am a big fan of it. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I am ready to read the second one. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed reading this book. So these were all the books I've read this month. It was really hard to film, actually. I didn't really realize it was gonna take me this many times to film it over and over again. But I hope I did a good job for the first time of filming a wrap-up. I really liked filming it, but it was harder than expected. If you read any of these books and have an own opinion on it, I would love to hear it. You can put it down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you like to support me, then don't forget to subscribe. I really want to thank you for watching this video, and I see you in the next one. Bye!